Hi everyone, my name is Lucy Ding and I'm the Texas JSA governor.
Hey, Texas JSA, I'm Shilpa, and I'm your Lieutenant Governor and FEC Chairwoman.
Hi, I'm Vivian Zhao, and I'm the Texas JSA Speaker of the House.
So we're hosting our candidate forum right now. This, of course, is typically held at Spring State, but since we can't do that, we decided to transition it electronically. And the way we're going to do this is through this webinar. Each candidate is going to come on and say their answers to some questions. There's a few rules to this. Number one is no slander. So no candidate should be talking about or disparaging one of their opponents. You should solely be talking about unless the question specifies that you address your candidate. Number two is each candidate will have the opportunity to answer the question assigned to their position. There's 4 questions per position. Number 3, you will each have a minute maximum for your response. And then Vivian's going to go through some timing procedures.
So I'll keep time. As Shilpa said, you have 1 minute maximum. So when you have 10 seconds left, I'll hold up 10 fingers just so you know it's time to start wrapping it up. And then if you go over a minute, I'll just issue a verbal stop. So we're going to start with the 4 speaker candidates, and I'm going to go in alphabetical order to see who answers the first question first. And then after that, I'm going to rotate down the list so every speaker has a chance to go first and last. And I'll just call your name to prevent any confusion. So if the speaker candidates could join right now, we're going to start with Shravya, and then go to Ananya, and then Jackson, and then Dean. So alphabetical order by your last name for the first question. And then if you want me to repeat the question, I can do so. So the first question to Shravya is, what is your best memory of JSA?
Okay, so JSA, I've had a lot of memories in the past few years, but I think most recently one that stuck out to me is at PMC Chapter Con. Me and a couple other kids like David, Lucy, and Michelle, and Deanne, we went to PMC Chapter Con and we met a lot of the kids at Jasper and Plano Senior and Plano West that we don't really get to meet outside of conventions. And so there, one of my most memorable memories is probably doing a TikTok dance after the convention. We did Renegade, and it was really funny and fun, and I got to meet a lot of the people that I don't really get to connect with.
Next, we'll go to Ananya.
Okay, yeah, so obviously I also have a bunch of memories of JSA, but one that sticks out to me the most is my freshman year at Spring State. I really didn't have much idea what was going on when the candidates were giving their speeches because it was my first ever JSA convention. And some senior, his name was Nicola, he actually nominated me to run for mayor, so on the floor. So I just went up there and I started talking about how freshmen were underrepresented, even though I had no idea what a mayor did at the time. And yeah, I just gave a random minute-long speech about why I should be mayor of JSA of the GCR, even though I had no idea what was going on. And it was pretty fun and it was kind of insane. So yeah.
Next is Jackson.
Okay, I think my favorite JSA memories probably happened at Chapter Caucus my freshman year. I remember when I went in, I was so nervous. I didn't really know what to expect. And by the time Chapter Caucus rolled around, I don't think I was as comfortable as everybody else quite yet. And so when they called Lamar's name, I didn't really know what we were doing. And turns out Lamar has a tradition of getting in a circle and doing a chant together. And at that point, I was so nervous, and I did it. And afterwards, I felt like I was really connected with my fellow members, and I was so happy to be there. And I think that was kind of the turning point. I really started to enjoy myself.
Okay, Dean?
So this one is kind of easy for me. There's been a lot of times, once I won Mr. JSA, and I really love that. But this is really easy because I met my best friend at JSA, and I know a lot of people say, I met my best friend the whole world at JSA, but I met my actual best friend ever, dead stop. He is my best friend. He is my rock. And anytime I get flustered or troubled, he's right there. His name is Lucas, and he's also my campaign manager. And our story and how we met, it's really weird. Long story short, I went to Spring State my freshman year, and I kind of knew him through people. And so we were hanging out, and then we just went to every debate together. We sat together at Chapter Caucus, even though that wasn't my chapter. And it was amazing. And now we're both in publicity together. We're both deputy directors. And the past 3 years with him have been the most amazing thing in the world. And I can't thank JSA enough.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Dean. We'll now be doing the second question. And so Ananya is going to go first, and then Jackson, and then Dean, and then Shravya. The question is, what has been your biggest impact on Texas JSA? And we'll start with Ananya.
Okay, so I've been a part of the debate department. Like starting off in my freshman year, I was a debate agent for my chapter, and then I kept like going up, and now I'm a debate agent for the state. And one of the main things that sticks out to me, like for me, for my impact on JSA, is that especially my freshman year, not my sophomore year, I was one of only 2 girls in the entire debate department because debate is very like it's like a lot of men are involved in it, and like I was one of the only females. And I think that's like I've like had to fight for a way to like make my voice heard, especially in the debate department group chat. There was a bunch of like Belair guys. So I think my impact is that like I like have like a female voice inside a full department that's full of guys. And that's mainly I think that's like the main thing that I have with JSA.
Awesome. Thanks. So now it'll be Jackson.
Okay, I think the biggest impact I've had is obviously the speakers I've been able to help schedule and introduce. Most of you guys know me. I'm the director of political communications, and that job's been a unique experience for me because it's given me the opportunity to not just work in one department. I've had the opportunity to work in both the convention and activism departments, and that's given me the opportunity to work with a variety of people in cabinet, and that's been really special to me. But I think probably the most impactful experience was when I introduced Representative Castro last November. He told me that the reason JSA was special was because it was inclusive in a time when so much was divisive. And I think that really had an impact on me because I thought, you know, maybe by scheduling these people, I'm not just getting the opportunity to introduce them or meet a really cool person, I'm also impacting people's lives. And that was the first moment JSA really became more than just about me. It became about the people we were impacting.
Awesome. Thank you. Next is Dean.
All right. So I'm a senator for the GCR, and with that there comes a lot. But I've written 2 bills, and I've sponsored a third, and I just wrote another that I submitted. And all 3 bills ended up passing, and I think those were really impactful because one of them increased transparency between like officers and, you know, big 3 and just like the normal taxpaying JSAer. One of them helped people who wanted to run for office. It made it much more accessible and easy. And the other one just kind of made JSA as a whole and more fair organizations. And individually, they may not seem very impactful, but when you look at it from like where we are kind of in positions of, you know, responsibility, I think they really help individual taxpaying JSAers and like people in those positions, of those officer positions as a whole.
So now we have Shravya.
Yeah, so I think my biggest impact on JSA has to relate to summer programs. As director of summer programs this year, I worked really hard to change the way we have like traditionally publicized summer programs. In the past, we haven't necessarily put it at the forefront of like conventions and even on the Instagram. But like this year, I worked with Alexa Zabat in introducing the testimonial video that's on IGTV on Instagram, and then also restructuring the summer school raffle at Fall State, because typically not a lot of people sign up for it, but by like incentivizing it and talking about the prizes you get at convention, I like doubled the amount of people that actually signed up for it, and that increased the opportunities that all JSers have outside of the year. And so yeah, I think that's my biggest impact.
Thank you guys. So we're halfway done. We have 2 more questions. So the third one is probably the hardest one. It's, what is the most important role you think the Speaker of the House should have and why? I'll give you a second to think about it. And then we're going to start with Jackson, and then go to Dean, and then Shravya, and then Ananya.
Okay. Well, I think the Speaker of the House is really important because it combines like the legislative part of JSA with the parts that the normal JSA interacts with. When the Speaker of the House leads a legislative role, he or she can really impact the way conventions and the whole organization interact with the everyday JSAer. And so if I were to be elected, I have a couple main ideas, but the main one I have is through an activism incentivization program where we're able to connect JSAers with programs in their local areas. So I think the most important is probably combining the legislative element with just the part that JSA, the average JSA is able to connect with.
Dean?
So being a senator, I think legislation is super important. Making the Constitution as strong as it can be is insane. It's like definitely for me the most important thing because I've seen how much it can impact people. And being able to, run the House, make sure everything runs smoothly, and we get legislation passed, and it promotes activity between, chapters like these chapter presidents and a major core facet of JSA, the Constitution. I think that's integral to making JSA what it is, and that's, you also have to think like this affects chapters, cabinet, conventions. So I think without having the ability to run and make sure people are voting and coming to these house meetings, I think JSA or our branch of JSA wouldn't be as strong as it really is now.
Shravya?
Yeah, so going off of what Jackson and Dean both touched on, like legislation, and I think the biggest job or role of the Speaker of the House is working on presiding over the House of Representatives. And most people don't necessarily understand how big of an impact the House of Representatives has on the Constitution and within Texas JSA. But my goal would be to improve its activity as on par with the Senate, because typically we see that senators are the ones that are writing bills. Senators are the ones that are being active in improving legislation and improving our Constitution, but making sure that the House of Representatives has a bigger part in that and making sure that most representatives are actively writing bills and are actively participating, I think is most important, and making sure that the Speaker of the House is encouraging representatives to be more active throughout the year. So yeah.
Ananya?
So people who aren't in cabinet think of JSA, they think about like debates, they think about like activism, but they don't know about like the JSA constitution. They don't know that they can actually like write bills and change how JSA is run. And the Speaker of the House can really contribute to that. They can like, since they're in charge of the House of Representatives, they can like say like they can advertise it and be like, hey, people who aren't in cabinet can contribute to how JSA is run. They can have more of an impact on like they can make more decisions about like what JSA is, because a lot of people do want to do that, they just don't know how. So what the Speaker of the House can do is make people more aware of like what they can do to make JSA a better organization.
So last question, and we'll start with Dean this time. If you could be any animal in the world, what would you be and why?
Personally, I think I would be a whale shark. The whale shark, unlike its name, is neither a whale nor a shark, but it's the largest fish in the world. And I've seen one closed up, and it's phenomenal. Like it's mind blowing. You don't realize how like small you are until you get something that's 10, 20 times larger than you are, and it truly is one of those larger than life moments. And I think that's what I want to be. I want people to like come up to me and like talk to me and be like, wow, this person has like such an impact, such a like amazing emotional response. Like I remember talking like Dominic Beck and Neelan and you guys too, like the big three, the current big three, and it's their devotion to JSA is something that's unparalleled and something that I want people to look at and see the exact same thing. So I think that has to be it. I just want people to recognize me as this person who is unparalleled when it comes to being a whale shark.
Okay. Okay. Now we're moving on to Shravya.
I think I would probably be a squirrel. First of all, they're a very adorable animal, and you see them everywhere. But also, typically with squirrels, they often see you coming before you do, and so they're always on top of their game. You know what I mean? And so I guess I aspire to be that way. Typically, like knowing what's coming before everyone else does. And with a squirrel, they're always like running in front of you, and you don't even see them coming unless they're like right in front of you. So they're pretty much like quick on their feet and like are always pretty active. And so I think I would want to be a squirrel.
Yeah, Ananya.
Oh yeah, so I would be a dolphin because first of all, I've been a competitive swimmer for like 10 years, so I love the water. Second, dolphins are really like they're very nice. They're nice creatures, not people. They're really nice animals, and they're very like approachable. And like whenever you see them at SeaWorld, you can like be with them. And they're also really, really smart. They're like very intellectual animals. So I want to be like that. I want to be in the water because swimmer. I want to be like nice and like I think I am nice like and like welcoming and then also like really intelligent. So, yeah, to be a dolphin.
Jackson?
Okay, well, I think I can for sure say I wouldn't want to be a lion because I just watched Tiger King, and the fact that so many are stuck in captivity is sad, and that makes me very depressed. But I think I would want to be an elephant. because elephants are known for staying in their little packs, and they're also really loving and they're kind. And I hope people would know that, I'm not running just to be your Speaker of the House. I'm running to be your friend and somebody who's approachable. So I think I'd be an elephant.
Solid choices all around. Okay, that wraps up the speaker portion of this candidate forum. Thank you guys for joining, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Good job, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Up to you guys.
So if we could get the lieutenant governor candidates on right now. So it's the same procedure here. We're going to start with the first name alphabetically. So it'll be Ben, and then Logan, and then we'll alternate for each question. Again, just 4 questions. So for the first question, what is the most important change you would like to see in Texas JSA? We'll start with Ben.
Shilpa, thank you for your question. The most important change that I'd like to see in Texas JSA is increased transparency between the cabinet officials, the senators, and the average JSAer. I founded my own chapter at College Station High School, and in the beginning, we got help, but I have to tell you, there were times that it was hard. It was hard to know what was going on. And if I was elected lieutenant governor, I guarantee you I'd work to alleviate that. Thank you.
All right, Logan.
So I think I absolutely love everything about JSA, and everything in its mission is just so incredible. But activism is definitely a part of JSA that's too long been put on the back burner. And that's just how we can take all of our passion and knowledge and turn it into real world change. So I think the biggest change we need to see is just making that far more at the forefront of everything we do.
Okay, thank you both. All right, moving on to our next question. What uniquely makes you the best person to lead the Texas JSA Senate in their policy-making endeavors? We'll start with Logan.
Perfect. So I think what makes me uniquely apt to fit to lead the Senate, as well as just to be in the position of LGG, is my experience. I've worked in cabinet for a very long time on multiple levels, and I've worked with Milin my sophomore year, as well as in pre-con and stuff this year as well. So just sort of seeing how everything works, I think that would help definitely run the Senate and as well as LTG and run the state of Texas.
Ben, go ahead.
I think the answer is twofold. Number one, it's my vision that I've laid out through my 3-part text plan, and number two, it's my experience. I have a unique perspective in JSA, having founded my own chapter, having raised lots of money, and having invited speakers like Congressman Rep Flores to my local chapter. I think gives me a unique perspective, and that perspective informs my experience and enlightens my vision. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. Our next question is, how are you prepared to take on the responsibility of running elections? And I think we realize this year more than ever that it's an ever-evolving role. For this question, we'll start with Ben.
Well, I think the most important thing that you can do is finding the right team. You have to build the right team. You have to create the right committee filled with the right people to do the right actions. And so if I was elected lieutenant governor of the Texas Junior State, one of the first things I would do is find the right people, the qualified people, through an extensive application process. Thank you.
Okay, Logan.
I think when it comes to elections specifically, the most important thing is just to be on top of everything and to distribute information in a way that gets to people quickly and effectively. Because if people aren't informed, then they can't vote, they don't know who to vote for, they don't know when to vote. So I'm a person who obsessively makes to-do lists and love to go through different tasks. So I think just staying on top of things and making sure that every deadline is met and that people are informed of what these deadlines are early on is the best way we can make our election process very smooth and effective.
Awesome. And this question is a little more of a fun one. If JSA was an ice cream flavor, what would it be and why? And we're going to start with Logan on this one. Take some time to think about it.
Yeah, this is a hard one. Okay, I'd say Texas JSA is a rainbow sherbet. Not only do you have a mixture of lots of different people, lots of diversity, and mixtures of opinions, everything sort of fits together so nicely and really is so beautiful when it comes together versus when it is apart. And I think that's what JSA does. We all have different ideologies, but when we come together, we make something beautiful, just like rainbow sherbet. So,
Thank you. Ben, go ahead.
You know, I completely agree with Logan on this one. It's definitely a rainbow sherbet. You know, if I think of ice creams and sherbets that personify the values of JSA, from diversity and inclusion to empowerment, it's gotta be the sherbet. It's gotta be the rainbow sherbet. All those flavors all together, creating something beautiful. Thank you.
Well, thank you both. This was a lot of fun. I wish you both the best of luck.
thank you, Shilpa.
Yeah, of course. I think we're ready now to move on to governor candidates, which Lucy will lead.
All right, so same as the other positions, we'll have 4 questions. We'll go in alphabetical order to start off. So the first question will go Emma, Christine, and then David. So first question is, what is the biggest lesson you've learned from your time in JSA? And we'll start with Emma.
So definitely the biggest lesson JSA has taught me has been like, to give you like kind of like preface, at opening session, like a phrase that really stuck with me was speak to the people on the elevator, introduce yourself. And that's really what JSA has taught me to do, to open up to different people of different ideologies throughout convention and have civil discourse. And before I was kind of an introvert, but definitely opening up, speaking to a lot of people, seeing a lot of different perspectives has been something really important and valuable to me. That's why I'm on cabinet. I've gotten to learn as much as I have and be as engaged as I have been in JSA. And so JSA teaching me to like speak up has definitely been the biggest lesson it has taught me.
All right, next.
Okay, for me, it's definitely stepping out of my comfort zone. So I came from a small chapter with like no debate experience at all. I was such a shy freshman, and I still remember my first fall state whenever I stood up and asked like my shaky little question, and I wrote it all out and I was ready, and it was still not perfect like how I imagined. But that was a really like defining moment for me, because that was when I really stepped out of my comfort zone. I did something that I normally would not do. I freshman year, I wouldn't normally just ask questions or like, you know, be bold like that. Leading on to like doing debates and then being more like participating more in cabinet was all out of my comfort zone. So I think that's one of the main things that JSA has taught me.
David, you're up next.
I'd have to say listen to others, and like this goes in JSA and like in general. So like in JSA, like we live in a pretty fractured society, so it's really important that we listen to everyone, be it from like your side of the political spectrum or other side. It's important that you listen to everyone. That way you can get everyone's viewpoint. But then also in like JSA, I've learned a lot of times that if you just listen to other people, be it like some of the leaders like Shilpa, Lucy, or even just ordinary JSAers, chapter presidents, cabinet members, you can learn a lot of things. And I think that's something that I definitely picked up on when I joined JSA.
All right, great. All right, so for the second question, it'll be, what will be your most important priority upon entering office? And this one will go Christine, then David, then Emma. Okay, so starting off with Christine.
So whenever I first made my platform, I was thinking about what is the most important thing when it comes to JSA. And a lot of things are very important, but I think the foundation of JSA is the chapters. So definitely improving communication and connection with everybody in JSA, in cabinet, the executive, connecting everybody together, and ensuring good communication. When working in the extension department, I found out that this was so important, and there's so many missing pieces when it comes with dealing with this. So definitely ensuring good communication, ensuring good connections, and then also ensuring that we build a community, which is Texas JSA, and make it a safe environment for everybody.
All right, next is David.
So I'm in CIA, so I've been in contact with a lot of chapter presidents, and something that I've noticed is that big chapters, they have a pretty good grasp on what JSA is. They communicate with chapters, but the chapters that need the most help are small chapters and chapters in counties. And to that end, the most important thing I focus on as governor is representation. It's a pretty big deal, whether it be like transportation, whether it be like funding for daily chapter activities, even just getting the basics of a chapter down and getting a chapter. I think representation is something that's really difficult, and as governor, I'd focus on that. As a GCR senator, I actually just wrote a bill to make online voting happen at every convention, regardless of what happens. That way, even if you can't come to conventions, you can still have a voice.
And finally, Emma.
Okay, so this would definitely be to prioritize activism, because conventions are great. I love conventions. However, what another thing JSA has taught me that is that youth have like motivation in the means and they care about issues. So to prioritize and make sure everyone understands that you can act on what you are passionate about and participate in activism initiatives. And I feel like in the past it hasn't been as important or emphasized as it could be, and definitely making sure that everyone understand, like having more representation through publicity, like on social media. Like, for example, as director of activism this year, trying to implement the revamped Fight Apathy was really hard because not a lot of people were aware of what was happening. They didn't, and so definitely overall to increase activism participation.
All right, thank you. So for our third question, what does being governor mean to you? And we're going to go David, Emma, and then Christine. So starting with David.
To me, being governor means being at the forefront of JSA, being the figurehead. So not only am I like the spokesperson for Texas JSA to like outside organizations, be it hotels, businesses, restaurants, I'm also the figurehead and like the de facto leader of people in Texas JSA. And I think that's a pretty important responsibility, but it's also something that I'm definitely up for.
All right, sounds good. Next up is Emma.
Okay, so being governor means being a leader, and with being a leader, you need to be organized, especially have like a positive mindset, because to approach issues and solve problems and make decisions, to have that is really important. And then also to be a friend and make sure that you hear what other people are saying, their ideas for like new legislature or what should be implemented. So I think making sure that you balance the role between a leader and a listener is really important.
All right, and finally, Christine.
Yeah, so I could say, I would prioritize fundraising for chapters, prioritize activism, all of these policy things that we all put in our platform. But I think at the bottom line is I'm here to represent you. I'm here to represent everybody in this organization. And like that's so important. That's what JSA is about. It's about being the people. And so my role here, I can do it. Every single one of us can make policy change. We're all passionate enough to make that policy change. But I'm here to represent you. I'm here to listen to you, and I'm here to do what you need and do anything that I can to make sure that you're being represented and you're being heard to every single person in JSA, and making sure that everything is connected and that we're all here for each other and representing truly what JSA means, which is be the people.
All right, thank you. And so for our last question, sort of a fun one, if you could get anyone, absolutely anyone, to speak at a JSA convention, who would it be and why? So for this one, we're going to go Emma, Christine, then David. All right, starting off with...
If I could get anyone to speak at a JSA convention, it would probably have to be Beto, because currently he, like in Texas, it's just like a big figurehead, and regardless of your political ideology, I just think it's cool to have someone who's just, well, he's been in the news a lot, and just to like see kind of like the backstory of like why he says what he says, because he has been a candidate that's been pretty controversial in like how he handles himself in the media. And so definitely like seeing how he reacts and talks to JSAers would be really interesting, because I think he'd be very candid, and that'd be really cool.
Christine, you're up next.
I think I'd probably say Bernie, just because that's one of the people that I would like to please speak to us. Yeah, no, David's a good. But yeah, that's definitely someone that I would want to see speak to us, because obviously like he's one of the presidential candidates, and I think that the way I just would like to see how he would approach speaking to youth, and like how he would, we're very educated youth, so I would want to see how he would approach speaking to us and see his personality shine through.
And finally, David?
I picked Kanye West, and the reason is because A, he's quite possibly like one of the most interesting figures in like all of human history, but B, he's also really politically active, so he can also educate us on that aspect. Like, no lie, I know all of Kanye's songs by heart, and I'd love to see him come to a JSA convention and just like, he doesn't even have to come prepared with an actual speech. He could give one of his famous rambles, and I'd still love to see it. Like, that is the figure that I want to see in a JSA. As governor, I will try to make that happen. That's my words.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I wish y'all the best of luck. And I believe y'all are the last candidate we have on this webinar. So I'm going to turn it back over to you, Shilpa.
Okay, awesome. So thank you to all the candidates for, speaking about issues that you care about, representing yourself in front of voters. It's really important for Texas JSA to still be able to see who you are and what you represent. And to those of you watching, thank you so much for coming out to listen to your candidates. It's important to have an informed voter base, and I'm glad that you're taking this initiative despite us not having Spring State. All right, so I guess that's about it.
Thanks for coming, guys. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.